Hello, everyone. Welcome back to a penultimate Sunday show of DCP's continued coverage of our 8th season, Rites of Passage All-Stars. I'm your host of the Sunday show, John Millsip, joined by two absolute queens of DCP who we were unfortunate enough not to have on this season, but fortunate enough to have here today. I am joined from Ricky Islands, Celestina Hendrickson. Celestina, how you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me. I've been enjoying watching this season. These are some game players, and I'm very impressed and proud.
And from Sahara Dunes, we have to have another finalist here today. I have fellow production member Kylie Scruggs here. Kylie, how are you doing today?
I'm good. So excited to be on the Sunday show. Yeah, I've enjoyed watching this. I obviously was there, so I know what happens, but it's really fun to see like behind the scenes stuff. So now that we're getting towards the end of the season, I'm seeing a lot more inner workings of how the actual gameplay happens. So really happy to talk about it all and hopefully play some games.
Yeah, we're definitely there. We're at the pointy end of the stick when it comes to the season. We have, after this week, we have 5 Castaways left. There are 3 episodes left to wrap up the season after this. This is an exciting part, and this is a brand new thing in DCP history, because what we have this week, we have a week that is straddling the end of a day of a mini and the start of a day of a mini. We've never had that before. So let's get into it. We've gotten to the point where we've seen a lot of the original Fumos eliminated and everything. Every single person now left in the game, all 7 of them, were on Ignis prior to the swap at some point. Garsow, yes, he was the first person voted out of that tribe, but I mean, ended up on Fumo, and now seems to be the last remnants of what is Fumo. But you have Austin Moorhead, Simmons, Maddie, Andrew. Oh, I guess Zucker's there. Never mind. I take it back. Zucker's there. And but let's talk about that first, because that's one of the big things here. Zucker has just incorporated himself so much into this group, you kind of forget he was on original Fumo.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did I remember that incorrectly? It is really impressive how he's like gotten his way in there, because you really do feel like all these people were there from the beginning. And we even see, I know we haven't gotten to this point yet, but we even see him saying that, like, oh yeah, we've worked together this whole time. And it's like, do we all remember correctly? Is that true? But he really has done such a good job at like, making his way in and making it seem like he's an original member with all the rest of them.
Now, to be fair, he was on that swapped Ignis tribe with Andrew. So he does hold the title of Ignis tribe member here. It just wasn't with everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
So, how are you feeling about this group of 7? This group of 7 we have at the end of the game, in comparison to, we've seen a lot of big names just go out of the game. We're here with this 7. As you were watching this season, did you have any idea this would be the final 7?
No, but I'm not surprised. Everybody it's all-stars after all, you know what I mean? Everybody has, they're gamers, they've played the game, and it's just interesting to see how like everybody is, the dynamics that everybody has. And like Kylie was saying, it's interesting because, I'm not like taking, profuse notes and stuff, but it is interesting when you're talking about Zucker. I'm like, oh yeah, he's, integrated himself there too. And I kind of completely forgot that he was like, the only lone member of the other tribe that's still there. I always just was like, oh yeah, they're all like, integrated together. So that's such a good point. And I'm like, yeah, that totally makes sense. So I can see why, everybody's talking about that, because that's very impressive. And I think everybody's been really great at maneuvering and navigating these like intermingled dynamics.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, because one of the things that maybe doesn't translate as well to video when it comes to a mini, especially in this format where we started with the long game and we've transitioned to the mini, your ability to maneuver is so important when you go from these long days where you have like 24 hours between knowing you're voting someone out and voting someone out, and going to essentially 25 minutes between that. It really changes the pace of the game, and your ability to adapt in those mini games is so important. And that's what we're seeing from Zucker, to the point where it doesn't even seem like he was ever part of Fumo, because the people in Fumo he was working with have been gone for weeks at this point.
Exactly, yeah.
in episode terms. But that brings us to this first challenge in this first episode. And it's a classic. It's a Survivor classic that we've adopted here at DCP, with what we're calling the coconut toss, because we're not chopping anything, because that's far too difficult to set up over Zoom. But
and dangerous.
We do take player safety into consideration for sure.
Sometimes.
But here we are. And we've only had one medevac, Kylie. Come on. Just one. And it wasn't even because of the player who had to leave. So it's fine. But we have this coconut toss challenge. And this is a very interesting challenge, especially when we get to this point in the game. Because we are deep enough in the game now where we kind of see this strategy happening, where everyone's like, okay, let's just get a Garsow right now, because Garsow has been winning challenges. He's been doing so well. This leaves him open for the vote no matter what. And then as we progress through this challenge, we kind of see people kind of struggling on who they're supposed to chop and how they're supposed to do it. So, Celestina, how do you approach a challenge like this that does have skill, because you have to still, sink your balls and everything, but also has that strategy side to it, where you have to determine how many chops you want to put on a person, how aggressively you want to go after a person, and at the same time kind of want to like conceal your allies a little bit, so that people don't exactly know who you're working with. Because in Survivor history, this challenge defines seasons. If we go back all the way to Marquesas, where it literally switched the entire game.
Yeah, I mean, and I personally, I like it when they do it for rewards, because then it's like, that's, you can tell a lot by those dynamics. Watching this, if I was in that position, I probably would take like a Karen approach, to it, where I would, the first round, I would see who everybody's trying to target. And I would choose someone. So like, say for instance, Garso, everybody was like going for him. I would go for someone who wasn't on the board, just because I don't want to be that person that's like, oh, everybody, I'm just doing what everybody else says. I don't want to be the reason why someone goes out. So if I see that, there's one person who they just need one more like coconut chop and then they're out. And then there's someone else who has like, three more and then they're out. I'm going to give my coconut to the one that has three more, because I don't want to show my cards and say, oh, I'm the reason why this person is like out of this challenge. So I would probably take that diplomatic approach. And if somebody like, put something in mind, I'd be like, oh, well, I'm just, returning the favor. But if everybody was trying to get me out, then I'd probably be a little bit more aggressive and just try to do what Simmons did, where I would just, try to get as many balls in as possible. So I would play it kind of like that, where I don't want to be in the spotlight, but if I needed to be in the spotlight, I guess I would.
Just turn it on as necessary.
Yes, exactly. But I think that from my experience in the game, I feel like I wouldn't outwardly be the target. Like maybe it would be like right in the middle. That's kind of where I would want to go, like right in the middle, just to be like, okay, now they just need an excuse to get somebody out. And they're like, so.
Kylie, the last time we saw this challenge, we saw it in Trinity Falls, and we had people throwing the challenge because they didn't want to put names out. We saw people waiting until everyone kind of had strikes before they started turning it on. What's the best strategy for this challenge?
You're asking me? I don't know.
Yeah, I am.
I like literally when we play this, like when we test this challenge, I don't even know what the best strategy is. I mean, I think that pretty much everyone except for Garso got off pretty easy this time. They all could just hide behind that. It's like, he's the main threat, so let's all put it on Garso, get him out. And then after that, it's just like, whoever else. I would say that like, if you can be one of those people that hides behind that and you find an easy target for the whole group, then that's probably the best strategy. But if you're someone like Garso, like, I truly don't know what else he could have done other than make every single one and make the 3 or however many it was, 4 every time, to where like he doesn't get chopped. But I've always taken the strategy of like, try to just hide in this game, like just slip through and, have someone that A, has a bigger target than you, or B, is looking better in the challenge than you. So that way you're just like getting a couple every time and no one's thinking about you. But dude, I don't know what the best strategy is. This one's so hard. It's like
Really
A, hard
isn't.
to make it, and then it's B, hard to like know what you're doing, and then you like, I don't know, then you get out. So I don't know. Does that answer your question?
It does kind of, and it leads us into a little bit more conversation where, because of the way that this is framed, because of the way that we design this challenge, where we give the opportunity for each castaway to get up to 3 chops, and if they get all 3, they get safe for that round. It really does change the weight of how you can distribute your shots each round, right? Because when you have 1, you have to be really, really specific with where it goes. And when you have 2, you have the option of being specific, getting someone out right away, or you have the option of like kind of dispersing it to lower your threat level a little bit. And then when you get 3, you can still do that, but you're also like, this isn't coming back at me. I can just lay them all on a single person. And like, too bad, so sad. And because it also, there's another layer of strategy to this, because you know every single round alternates who starts. So the way it works is we randomize the order to start, and then each subsequent set of choppings, it rotates down that order so that it's most fair, so that it's not just like the same person going first all the time. So you can strategically plan, and when you eliminate someone, they no longer get a chop that round.
Wow.
So you can strategically place your chops to prevent chops from coming back.
Wow. So you could write a thesis on this, essentially.
Yeah, essentially, there's so much. Yeah, you definitely have enough material on this challenge alone to write an entire thesis on how to properly approach it. I'm sure it depends on like how many allies you have left in the game.
Yeah, that's what I was
your
gonna say. Because then
current
it's
threat
like
level.
you can all gang up on the same person easily. Like if you know, like you're out. Yeah. Ooh. Great point.
Yeah, and especially when we see it here, right? Because what we see at this point is we have the Exile boys with like Maddie as the majority alliance here, and they're talking about getting Garsow out. They're talking about getting Karen out, and we see that kind of come to fruition here, right? Like we see that in the way that they approach this challenge. So I don't know. I don't know what the best strategy for this is. I think if you don't feel like you're in trouble, this is one of the best challenges to throw. I think this is a challenge that is just difficult enough. It's easy to convince people you were throwing it. It's like there are just so many layers when it comes to this coconut toss challenge that I don't even think there's a single best strategy for it, because it's going to change every single time you hit it.
Yeah,
It might
it's
be
very
hard to
dependent
throw
on
the challenge though too. Like it might be hard to throw it, because what if you like try to throw it, but then nobody like chops your coconuts, you know? So you're just like there and you're like, oh, I'm accidentally. It's sort of like my experience with dodgeball growing up. I am not athletic, but I would always be the last person left because I'm good at dodging balls because I don't want to get hit. And so then I'm the last person left, and everybody's like, well, are you gonna, and then I would lose because I'm like, I'm not gonna catch this ball, so I'm kind of like screwed. So I feel like that would be like a situation I would find myself in, where I'm like, oh, now I'm like the center of attention because like everybody's expecting me to like, you know, do something, and I'm like, I just accidentally was here because nobody chopped my coconuts.
Well,
but I guess like
one of
the point of it though is like coming out unscathed with like where your lines lie, I guess. And so even if you win immunity from it or whatever, it's like, you know, it clearly wasn't your doing from that. So I think it's more about like hiding your true intentions, and if you can kind of lay under the radar for that, then if you win, it's, you know, bonus.
I mean, I think that's one of the things that this challenge is designed to create animosity between castaways. I'm just going to say it. It is. This entire challenge is. It's almost like when you get to this point in the game and you have like the social player who's like kind of hiding under the radar, like Kylie, you were saying, like that's how you like playing. Kylie is the type of player who would, in this type of challenge, be completely exposed to everyone else as to how everyone else is thinking about her.
Yeah.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one to navigate. It's really hard. And like, because you never know when it's coming up, because it's a mini round and you can't really discuss anything, like you kind of just have to hope your allies are on the same wavelength as you. when you start throwing chops on each other. Otherwise, you get like, there's a moment in this where Simmons has a very disgusted look on his face when he gets some chops.
Yeah. I feel like I would cry if I was in this challenge.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd probably like
so
start
sad.
crying, feeling bad that like people are, oh, I feel so sad for people.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one, but ultimately we see Simmons win it. We finally see him, living up to that challenge beast that he's supposed to have, right?
Yep.
And Garsow seems to be the odd person out here. Now, we've seen in the last couple of weeks, Garsow's been pushing the idea of being a challenge beast. And not pushing it, I would say, but he's just saying it a lot in confessional, right? I'm worried that I'm a challenge beast. It's going to come back to bite me, and it's kind of coming back to bite him in this episode. Celestina, when you talk about yourself in a certain way, even in confessional, like, does it almost seem like a self-fulfilling prophecy here that people are starting to think of Garsow as a challenge beast, despite the fact he's only won 2 challenges?
Yeah. I know, it's always like anytime you win 1, it's almost like you're on the radar, and like when you win 2, that's when people like start considering you as a challenge beast. But like it was funny when and again, I'm not taking like profuse notes, but it was interesting when people were saying a challenge beast, because I was like, the only thing I can remember was the one challenge that like with the pencil thing that was on the
the popsicle stick,
yeah, that's what I remembered, and I was like, a challenge beast, because that was so vivid, like stuck in my brain, that I was like, are people look, but then I was like, oh, I guess, there's some challenges that he won here and there. So for me, I'm like, I'm looking at the entire picture, but I think they're really looking at specifically like those immunity challenges. I'm like, it's really anybody, like with these many challenges, really it's anybody's game. So I thought it was interesting, because for me 2 is not necessarily a challenge beast, but I guess from a mini perspective, I could see, like more than 1, it's like, oh, well, then you have like the capabilities to do pretty well.
Yeah. So then, Kylie, my opinion when it comes to orgs in general, when it comes to this idea of a challenge beast, because I think the challenge beast moniker is something that's really derived from Survivor, where you actually see different aspects of the game be dominated by certain people, like the physicality stuff, the balancing, the puzzles, those type of things. In orgs, we're just playing party games.
Yeah.
Like, is the concept of a challenge beast something that directly translates from Survivor to orgs? Because we're seeing it thrown around a lot this season in regards to Garsow, Simmons, Karen has been mentioned as a challenge beast too.
Mm-hmm.
Is there actually, like, is the title of challenge beast something that can actually apply in an org?
Yeah, it's hard because it's like, when you see a season end and you see that someone won multiple challenges, like obviously you're going to say they're a challenge beast. Like Simmons in Exile Island, obviously he's a challenge beast. But it's like, I agree. Does it actually apply? Because like these games can also, I think Survivor also has a lot of luck in it, but the challenges are more physical, or, if they're puzzles, then it's like you actually have to be like good and smart at puzzles. And we have some of those in orgs, but I do think a lot of them are more luck based. And so there is some skill, but I think it's like, how there's like more skill and some luck in real Survivor. And then in orgs, I think there's more luck and some skill. And so I think it does apply, because like when someone's good at these games, like even if they are party games or whatever, like Garsow has one too, and he like seems to be pretty good at them. Like that is threatening. Same with Karen. So I do think there's validity to it, but I also don't think that it necessarily is, what we think of in terms of like Survivor challenge beast. So I guess to answer your question, like kind of, but I don't think that there's a ton of correlation necessarily. It's just like whoever's on is on, and good for them.
I think like the big thing with it is in Survivor, we've seen people go on immunity runs before, and we rarely see that in our games at DCP, right? We rarely see a moment where someone goes on such a run that it gets impossible to vote them out. And that seems to be the conversation that's really driving this vote here, is this idea that, Garsow is good enough that if we don't get him out here where we know he doesn't have immunity, he could possibly win immunity, which is always a concern in Survivor. Like that is a strategy you have to discuss, is the fact that you don't know who's going to be immune next round. So is now the right time to take the shot because they're immune now.
That's why.
And yes, Celestine, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's why in my season I just every vote I tried to vote Garrett out because I was like I just because it was one of those situations where I like if I was considering someone to be a challenge beast, that's who I kind of would think of because it sort of fit the like storyline of like him and being like, well, we can't vote him out this round because he won or he's using an advantage or like something like that. And I felt like, I guess maybe with this season, it's a little bit different because it wasn't like a consistent storyline throughout. Like it's not like sort of like the main, like one of the central story arcs. So I guess when I'm thinking of like Challenge Beast, I'm like, it's sort of integral to the like overall storyline.
Well, and they did get lucky with it being coconut toss. I keep wanting to say coconut chop, but coconut toss. Because I do think there's something to be said about momentum. And like when your back's against the wall, like all you can do is win. And like, like if you don't win, then you're going home. And like that's kind of where Garsow I think probably was. And like they got lucky that this was a situation where it's like there was no way that he could have won that. Like literally no. I mean, I guess the only way is if he had just like made all the tosses. So in orgs, like I guess we don't see that as much because the momentum's a little bit different, but I do think that sometimes that is a fear. It's like if someone starts winning, like they may keep winning no matter what it is. So I think it can be possible, and it just kind of depends on like the situation.
Speaking of momentum, I wonder how much that really drove this vote in general, because what we saw last week is we saw Garsow was someone that Austin really wanted to get out and really wanted to push, but he had won that pivotal immunity and it saved him. And I wonder if this just being an opportunity where Garsow no longer has immunity, now's the time to go at him, was just brought from the fact, because again, this is like an hour and a half later that they're having these conversations. So it's like his name was already out there, but he wasn't eligible for a vote. And now it's like, okay, he's eligible for a vote now, so we can just do this. And it's really interesting in the mini format to see when plans from previous rounds come into effect because of changing circumstances.
Yeah, in my season that was a lot of it. It was like you have like a pecking order kind of in your mind in terms of who's against you. And then when things happen, then like, you're like, okay, well, this person makes sense now. They're eligible. Like, I still want to get them out. Like, why not go ahead and get them out? I don't know if that's the case for everyone, but I do see some correlations, like in terms of my experience with how they were going about it this time, because it is like, especially people that keep winning immunity once they're available, even if you hadn't thought about it in like a couple rounds, you're like, oh, wait, I can get them out. Maybe I should.
Yeah, it's interesting. And let's talk about it here. Let's talk about like Garsow's name going out and stuff. So we see this conversation between, was it Maddie and Andrew? And Maddie's about to say Garsow's name, and Garsow pops into
Moorhead,
a room.
I think.
It was Austin Moorhead. Okay.
Yeah.
And Garsow pops into the room, and Maddie's not chill about about how to handle this conversation. This is a skill that's actually really hard. You have to be able to change conversations, and it comes up in Real Survivor a lot. I think like one of the most infamous ones that I can think of now is like the Winners at War, where Denise is like, we're talking about cupcakes. It's like that deflection. Food, easy to talk about on the island. You don't get that luxury in an org. You can't be like, oh yeah, we're just talking about food. Everyone knows you're talking strategy at this point. So Celestina, how do you change a conversation when your intended target comes in right before you're literally about to say their name?
I feel like I don't remember this happening to me a lot, but what I remember always being was like on the lookout for like anybody possibly coming in. So I would usually speak try to speak slow or like have pauses or something, because I'm always paranoid somebody's going to like pop in at any time. So I think in the back of your mind, just being mindful that like, somebody can pop in here at any time. So even if we are having a conversation, make it feel organic and natural. Or like if somebody's coming in, if we are talking game, you'd be like, oh, perfect. This is the exact person we wanted to see. This is what we're, something like that to kind of improvise. I know I love it. I find it so smooth when people, like when somebody pops in, they're like, you're just the person that I wanted to see, like make them feel like they're included versus just like kind of being sus where you're like, oh, hey, like, how's it going? And I actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I feel like there was a moment like this in my season. I just don't remember what it was, but it was like, I think later, like when there's not that many places to hide anymore and people were like, I think it's me, right? And then I think I was I don't know who it was, but I was like in a room with someone and it was kind of awkward, but I was like trying to, I think I was like talking about Chipotle or something and trying to make it.
Probably.
It was a very common topic on Eureka Islands. Yeah, I think like pivoting conversation is so important because you have to be able to like seamlessly transition the conversation so that like even if I think the worst time for someone coming is right before you say someone or right before you're about to say someone's name rather than right as you're saying someone's name. Because I think as you're saying someone's name is a lot easier to pivot the conversation. But if they're coming in right before you say their name, you then have to start evaluating, okay, how much of this did you hear? And like, can I swing this? And I think that's where we see Maddie kind of fumbling here a little bit is she's calculating. It's like, how much of this do I have to spin so that Garsow doesn't think, oh, she was just like throwing my name out. And I mean, as we progress through this scramble, it's pretty unanimously Garsow at this point. Garsow, though, puts up one hell of a fight. Agreed. And he throws out Zucker's name. And he's been voting Zucker for the last several rounds now. And he's like, okay, Zucker's the person to throw out. I think he's close to Simmons, and I think that really makes them very powerful together. Kylie, what do you have to say about the way that Garsow approached this vote?
Yeah, I think he did all that he could, and I agree, like, it was a great fight. I'm trying to think about it, like other options of what he could have done. And obviously, like, Zucker, based on his perception, was the person that made the most sense to go after. Simmons was safe. So, like, I don't know if that would have crossed his mind. I'm wondering, like, did he think about someone like Maddie or Austin, where it's like they actually are saying that they're the closest three, and like Zucker is close with them right now. But like they kind of see themselves as more, they've been together from the beginning. So I wonder if he like thought about that. And I don't remember if he had said that in a confessional or not, but then it's like, how would that have changed anything? Like maybe if he had gotten Zucker, like on board with him and Karen, because Karen clearly wanted to work with Garsow, but I don't know. It's hard to say that he had any other options, really. I mean, they were all gung-ho on getting him out. Even Karen, it's like she wanted to work with him, but like she knew that her hands were tied. And in a mini format, like she even said in one of her confessionals, I think, or maybe in the voting booth, but it was like, if this was a long game, maybe it would be different. But in a mini, like you just got to let him go. So I was very impressed with his fight for sure. But I truly don't know what else he could have done, or if he was kind of, his name was already kind of written at that point.
Mm-hmm. So I think that Garsow clearly wanted to work with Karen. He had been with her since the swap, and even prior to the swap, even prior to him being voted out of Ignis tribe originally, he was working with Karen. And what we're seeing, and we're at this point now where he clearly wants to move forward with Karen. Now, Garsow, we know, has the legacy advantage. We know it has to be played at 6. It's the last time it can be played. So if Garsow gets through this vote, this isn't just getting through one vote. This is getting through 2 votes. Celestina, is there any merit to throwing out Karen's name here? Yes, it makes the end game a lot harder, but it gets Garsow to final 5 if he can convince everyone to vote out Karen instead of him.
Yeah, I mean, it is, again, it's like about how you maneuver it, really, because the thing that I think could have worked on it is they were talking about, oh, well, maybe we get Karen out this round too, because I mean, so I think that if he maneuvered it right, it could have worked, because I think in a sense, they could have been interchangeable, except for the fact that they're like, I think we could beat Karen in a challenge more than we could beat Garsow. But I do think there is, in his defense, some merit in wanting to keep, a close ally, because I think personally, I think Karen is I mean, she's on the outs. So like, being able to have someone who is an ally and can work together, I think is super, super valuable. But like you're saying, in a game where it's about survival, it is something to think about. And I think that if he maneuvered it correctly, it could have been something that that could have happened. I do think that the whole challenge factor was very, very large. So I think it probably still would have been him, but like he was trying everything. So props to him, you know.
Actually, bringing up the challenge aspect, I think, is even more of a reason why Garsow probably should have pushed Karen here.
Yeah.
And I think the big thing is when you look at Zucker, I understand Garsow's approach to putting out Zucker here. I think Zucker might have been one of the worst names to put out just based on the fact that Zucker's name has been the second name for every single vote up to this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's been the one that's like, okay, we'll tell the people that we're actually voting out Zucker. So I don't know how much traction it gains at that point, because I think that's one of the things that Zucker actually, and we'll talk about it more when we get to his idol play next episode. But I think that's one of the things that Zucker really maneuvers incredibly well through this game, is being the second vote and it not mattering, so much so that it never gains traction. That he knows if his name gets out there, people still aren't wanting to vote him out based on who he's aligned with at this point. And well, yes, I think Austin and Maddie, way harder to convince someone like Simmons to vote for, maybe easier to convince like Andrew and Zucker to vote for. And I think one of the things is like the thing that makes it really hard not to put Karen's name out is the only people who have said Karen's name at this point is Simmons. Simmons has said it only to that swapped Fumo 3, that Ignis 3 there of Maddie, Austin, and himself. And like, that's the only real chatter of Karen going on. So I don't even know if it crossed Austin's mind that pushing Karen here might have been the best. I don't know how much he perceived this Exile Alliance, right? How much he perceived that these four people from Exile at a final 7 vote have a majority, and going for one of them, it wouldn't be as easy as pushing one of the other 2 people who weren't on that season with them.
Yeah.
But commendable fight. So good.
Yeah.
Austin Garsow is just, he's a gem of a player. Honestly, McKenna and I did a podcast with him for the Specialist once, and that's how we found him. And we're like, hey, apply for our games. So we got him at Trinity Falls. We were so happy to see him apply again. It was very difficult casting this season because people like Austin Garsow were applying, and Trinity Falls just has like 15 phenomenal players on it, which makes it really, really hard to cast people from it. And we had to keep our numbers down. So Austin wasn't even on this cast originally. He was one of our alternates who we're really, really glad. No offense to the person that he ended up replacing. We're really glad Austin ended up on this season. He gave us very strong, what a great storyline. Like seeing him voted out first and then hanging on all the way to the last vote of this first mini day, winning challenges, finding advantages. Austin, you should be super proud of what you accomplished in this game. I know it's cut short because of how tight some of these other people were, but man, you put on a show for everyone here, and that's all I gotta say. I love watching you, Austin.
Go Austin Garza.
Yes.
Just
second
kidding.
or thirded.
He had so many names. Yeah,
he did.
Yeah,
he did.
Austin did so. I thought it was so funny. Like literally just listening, even just in his boot episode, it's like everyone says his name differently, and it's so funny to me because it's like Austin's easy, but Garsow is like also probably kind of easy, but everyone says different. So anyway, I agree. He played a great game, and I was really happy to watch him play again.
Chelsea, any final words on Garsow's game?
Yeah, I mean, I like, going back to the coconut throw challenge thing, I felt bad, but I think like regardless of if it was another challenge, if he didn't win, he was going to go home anyway. So I think it was just sort of like a coincidence that it was this challenge. So yeah, just great gameplay. Again, very impressive that, the first episode, it was like, I was really sad. I was like, 2 people, oh my gosh. And then 2 Austins. I thought that was kind of interesting, but yeah. Yeah. So good job.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that happens in the mini format a lot is because because our production team is so vast and has played in so many of our different games, a lot of times, when a single person pops into a breakout room, we'll just say hi. We'll say hi to them, make them feel welcome. Or, if a bunch of people from our season end up in a breakout room with us, we get a little happy. So here's our first secret scene, and it's a little look at the Alliance boys here, or the Exile Alliance boys here.
The Alliance boys.
The Alliance boys, yes.
Because at this point, I think that's our best avenue going forward.
Man, you know how pissed people are going to be when Exile Island's in the Final Four?
I'm pissed.
Oh my God.
Hey, it'll just prove we're the best season. So,
dude, our original tribe, our reasoning for voting Garza out was because there was 3 Trinity Falls on the same team, on the same tribe. We're like, oh, we got to get them out. Fly under the radar. It's incredible.
Exile Island represent.
Hey, Greg. Greg, you want to hop in for a vote?
yeah, we can use it.
We can wait. You can come in at Final 5 and we can vote you out again.
Oh, fuck.
Well, I gotta win Jeremy's challenge again. You know how hard that shit was?
Oh, they're definitely going to do that again, and I'm going to freaking hate it. There's no way they don't do that again. If it's at, I don't know when that would be, but gosh, damn, that one was so hard. Like, I was actually getting frustrated doing that challenge. It was so hard.
I'm trying to get myself ready because I have the John Mayer concert tonight at 8:00. So
John fucking
Mayer. Like our last one, I was like, come on, guys. Like, why is he?
Hey, you guys want to join up in treatment?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
You're getting very high tech. Look at all this, clips.
Yeah. Okay. My first thought that I wanted to point out, I don't know if you heard it, but Simmons said Garza. So
he did.
I rest my case.
He did.
I did not plan that.
Say Garza. But also very interesting that of all the challenges they reference, it's Jeremy's challenge, which is the very next challenge they're going to have to play first day of this mini.
Yeah, that's wild. Very psychic of them.
Yeah, and then of course Greg jumping in there. Greg obviously being from Exile Island, jumping in and just being like, "Yeah, guys, you do you." I mean, I as another Exile Island alum, I can't say I was terribly disappointed in seeing Exile Island doing so well in this season.
Everybody has pride for their season. It's okay, Everybody.
Hey, I still got one in.
You do.
Sahara Dune's sister. And your real sister.
And real sister, yeah, that's right.
You can't claim her, though. In this realm, I get to claim her. Not you.
Yeah, okay. That's fine. That's fine. Fine. I spent the day with her yesterday, so whatever.
Okay. I live in a different country. Anyway.
Well, let's move on to our next episode. So, at the conclusion of this Garsow boot, we head into the overnight portion of our mini, which is brand new for DCP. We've never done it before. It was interesting. It was really interesting, especially when you consider we're going down to a final 6. There are only 3 rounds for day 2. We weren't sure what was going to happen. We weren't sure about how people were going to, how much people were going to game, because we saw in that secret clip, we just saw Austin talking about the fact that he was going to do a concert that night. People have lives, and I don't know, maybe you were planning them for a long time. I'm sure Austin had that concert ticket for a very long time, and it just happened to line up with the game. As you're entering the game, you're like, I don't even know if I'm going to be there at that point. It's not even going to matter, and then you're here, and you have to, go through a bunch more scrambles again. And except this time it's all long Zoom calls and everything. But you also just played an entire day of Survivor, and you are pooped. You are so tired, and we can see that. I personally believe we could see how tired these contestants are in these Zoom calls that we have in this episode to start off, because you could see they're going through a lot of they're talking things out. They're talking a lot of strategy. They're talking a lot about perceptions of everyone in the jury, outside of the jury, what everyone's relationships are, how to approach this last stretch of the game. But we can see it's such a huge contrast to what we've seen over the previous episodes where it's been these mini rounds and they've just been like, go, go, go. All of a sudden, everyone seems a little more relaxed. Everyone seems a little more calm. And we're in a very interesting situation here, right? We have Karen talking about the fact that she's lost literal, like, in-person friends at this point, back to back. She's all alone other than, like, the relationship she has with Simmons at this point. We see different combinations of people. We see that Ignis 3 of Simmons, Austin, and Maddie get together and talk about how, hey, you know what? This is it. This is the 3. We're going to keep going like this. We have the Exile boys talking about, yes, Exile Island. We're going to be the final 4. Let's do this. And we have Maddie talking to Andrew about, you know, Karen's a former winner and she's a threat because of that. Simmons is a challenge beast and went really far. Austin's been to the, like, inches away from the end twice already. What are we going to do? We see so much build up overnight. After a day of playing a mini, is this a relief, Celestino, or is this just more stress put on the entire situation?
Well, I mean, there's probably like relief in that, like, oh, I can pull through. There's only, you know, a little bit left, but also there's a lot of stress because it's exhausting, you know, like sitting for a while and like having to do this and navigating the different dynamics, and not to mention the different technology that like you're using, like hopping from different room to room and looking, oh, I got to go here. And then I'm being pulled here. And then remembering all the conversations that you had with someone, like taking note, like when I was there, I was taking notes because I'm like, wait, was it this person who said that? Or was it that person who said that? And like, when did that happen? Because it's all one day, and like you get in your head and then you're tired, and it's like, for some people it's like, you know, 3 a.m, and for other people it's like different time zones, so everybody's reacting differently. So it's just a lot. Like at the end, it's just very interesting because, you know, at the beginning everybody's like hyped, they're, you know, and you can kind of just see their energy sort of like dwindle at the end, but they're still like, you know, pushing through because they know they're very close. So sometimes the interesting like chaos happens at the end because people's brains are just kind of like fried.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of fried brains, Kylie, one of the things we do see happening in these... No, sorry, that was nothing about you. No, it's okay. I'm about to insult my sister instead. Don't worry.
Oh.
But we see... One of the things we see before this challenge is we see Maddie and Simmons talking. And Maddie is revealing to Simmons that she has found this End the Scramble clue. Now, this clue, for anyone who doesn't remember, is a clue comprising of letters from people who were voted out pre-merge. So the clue would be something like the 5th of the 1st, and like you're taking the 5th letter of Lydia's name, and you're putting it into the words and things like that to make this word that solves this clue. This is infamously the clue that I could not solve to save myself in Exile Island. So I blame it on Millsip genes here that Maddie can't figure this out. Maddie's had this clue since the Shea boot, since the immunity challenge at the Shea boot at this point. So since extra extreme flip cup, Maddie's had this clue. She's been working on it throughout the day. Whenever she has like a moment, but it's not a lot, obviously. They're scrambling all the time. Can't really be working on a clue as everyone's scrambling. And she gets to the end of the day and she's like, well, I haven't found it yet. If it's probably gone, which is a fair assumption. Now, we as viewers know Kylie was the only other person to find this clue. You could only guess once. Kylie guessed incorrectly. So Maddie is in fact the only person with this clue left in the game. And she's like, this is better for me to share with Simmons here so that, you know, one of us has it. Because we're at a point, I think there's a lot of strategy involved with it, because you're at a point where you're going into a final 6. Advantages in games famously end at final 5. That is the point where, you know what, no more advantages can be played after final 5. So there are 2 rounds to use an advantage. Finding it overnight is kind of pivotal at this point in order for it to be effective. There were a lot of things that made this clue kind of hard. So because of the boot order technically was changed in production from a recording standpoint, because in order to better facilitate having the winning tribe in the swapped tribal councils who were sitting in watching the last place tribal council, we filmed the second place tribal council before the last place tribal council. So those were swapped in the way they were filmed, but the last place one was technically booted out first because they came in last place. And you're looking at the scramble and everything, and Maddie forgets Corey. And I'm sorry, Corey. I'm sorry. I'm going to apologize for that. No reason I didn't forget you. But I'll apologize on Maddie's behalf for forgetting you. Who wasn't one of these people in the swaps. And also at this point, the clue only involved the pre-merge people, but it didn't state it only included the pre-merge people. So Maddie, and at that point, other people had voted, right? Lex had been voted out at that point. Shea was just about to go home. Maddie had the right number of people still with forgetting Corey was on the cast, which is why she couldn't figure out exactly how it would go.
Mm-hmm.
So Kylie, Maddie gives this clue to Simmons. Like, what do you think about that? Like, is that better than her just guessing a wrong answer? Is it better for her to share it with her ally here? Is it too risky? Someone shared a clue with me once, and they had already found the advantage out of it. That would be Lilly with that steal of vote she used against me. But like, what is the thought process between sharing the clue here? Is it a good move to share the clue here?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard because the added layer is that this is during the mini as well. And so like, yes, they had the overnight time, but she had it for hours at that point. I don't know exactly how many, but like she had it for a while. Even if she hasn't had a lot of time to like sit down and think about it, it's like your brain is fried, like we said. So like, how much potential do you think that you actually have of solving this? Two brains are better than one. And there has been a massive theme this whole season with their games. It's like Maddie really, really trusted Simmons, obviously. Like she's trusted from the beginning. And like, if I put myself in that situation, I mean, Maddie's like, she's probably better at advantages than I am. Like, even if we haven't seen either one of us like really do well with them, I guess. But like, you would think that Maddie's probably better than them than I am. But I would definitely want to outsource help because it's like, I don't know if I would be able to find it myself. And like, if I put it in my situation in my season, like I would have probably told Erik and had him help and he would have definitely solved it, you know? And so I don't know, like just playing devil's advocate, like probably it's not the smartest because it's like, you want to just have that for yourself. But also like she was thinking, it's like someone else may have it, like, or if someone else could be trying to get it, like you want to have someone on your side solving it rather than, you know, someone else. So I don't know that there's a right answer. I mean, I think always like you want to have your clue and get the advantage yourself and get to use it on your terms. But if you don't think that's going to be possible, which like clearly we see, you know, she did, like there was a chance that she could have, but you really never know. So I don't know. I would say like I would not knock her that much for it. It does kind of suck because like it was her clue and he solved it pretty quickly and then got it. But ultimately, like he was using it in a way that like would benefit both of them. At least like from her perspective, I think she would see that he's using it in a way to benefit them both. So I don't think it was really that bad, but also like you always want to solve your own clue, but sometimes it's not possible. So that's my thought.
Yes, Alcina, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, for me, I'm just very much like, and not anti-advantage, but like for my own personal self, because I already have anxiety in general. So if I was like had an idol or an advantage, I probably would just screw it up myself. So if I was in that situation, I'd probably just be like, well, it's fate. I'm not supposed to like figure this out. And just like, I would do that. But from like a standpoint of like getting into like the brain of like, you know, wanting to be more like strategic with advantages, I don't necessarily think it would be like bad to like share with an ally. It just so happens that the ally is Simmons, you know, like that's the thing because and I guess it's easy for me to say as like just the person watching it. Like I know that Simmons is like aligned with basically everyone. And maybe she doesn't know that or have that like that perspective. But everybody was saying that about Lex. Oh, Lex has a final 2 with, you know, every person.
Mhm.
So and that was just like from their perspective that they saw too. So I'm always like weary about that in Survivor. I'm like, you know, yeah, I can trust them, but they're really, you know, they're tight with other people too. So there's always that possibility that they could, you know, go and share that. So it's always a risk, but I mean, I think in Survivor you do have to take risks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think while I think there's a risk to sharing this clue, I think there's also a strategy, because I asked Maddie about it yesterday when I was spending time with her, like what was her thought process with sharing this clue and everything. And she told me, because she was aware of like the Exile boys at this point and how close they all were, and that, you know, some people like Andrew were trying to position themselves in a way where they would have to choose to make Simmons kind of choose between Maddie and the Exile boys and everything. Maddie shared this clue to be closer to Simmons. Again, just to like reinforce the idea that they were close, right?
Yeah.
That they were in fact number 1 allies. And they've been saying it the entire game at this point. But this is like, again, like this is them acknowledging their number ones and knowing that this advantage is going to be Maddie was not happy about Simmons stealing this advantage out from under her feet, that's for sure, because she solved it about 5 minutes after he solved it. But like in the end, just with what this advantage was too, it worked out for them because they gave them an advantage that they had an opportunity to use, and they're about to use it right away as we start day 2 of the mini.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting too about that also, just to quickly add, is they're almost hating on the like advantage. They were like, oh, this is not a good advantage. But that was actually a good advantage. It was actually like, it's a very powerful, I mean, we can talk about it, but I was like, why are they hating on that like advantage? Like, that's a good advantage.
Well, we are going to talk about it because
cool.
we have the challenge. It's Jeremy's challenge, former production member, all-star,
surprise.
Jeremy Urban's challenge. And, you know, we see Simmons pull it out. And then as soon as he wins this challenge, he's like, I'm ending the scramble. We're not doing this anymore. Both of you have had scrambleless rounds before. Kylie, your scrambleless round came in a situation where you didn't know it was going to be scrambleless, but we put you into a challenge where we pulled you out one at a time to work on the challenge, and you had that opportunity to kind of talk to everyone.
Yep.
Tell us about your experience with the scrambleless round and how you approach it.
Yeah, it was so crazy. So ours was basically like we were doing a puzzle, so we like get pulled out one by one, and then everyone else would be left in a room. And so we started just like chatting for like a little bit, and then some like I don't know, a little bit of time passed. And we were like, wait, we should probably be like using this for like strategy. And so like we started talking, but obviously it's like only one person's gone every time, so there's still only so much strategy that you can do in the way that our scramble was. And then you know I don't think any of us really thought that it was going to be cut short and that was it. So then once that was over and we went straight to tribal council, like we were all still kind of like deer in the headlights, like, okay, no one's saying anything. And I just remember like not knowing what to do, but I was like, okay, I want to vote for the person that I said I wanted to vote for, if you remember who I want to vote for. And it was like so cryptic. But like, you know, the people that I was working with like knew what I was talking about, but it was so stressful because you're already trying to be cryptic in a lot of ways in these games, like even in the scramble. But then like without the scramble, it's like so hard to know what to do. So I think this one turned out to be a little bit different. Like I think they were probably stressed, but like a lot of them kind of knew like where they wanted to go anyway. So it seemed a little bit more straightforward. But it was still interesting. So I don't know. I mean, in my experience, like it's a very the scrambles in general and minis are very stressful because they're just short, but then without one it's like just like stress on high. So it's very interesting though. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, it is fun to watch because it honestly, I think it's really important that there's no scramble in this round for us to get the result we get in this episode. Because I think if there was a scramble, there were times for people to kind of align on where their votes were going in case of advantages and things like that. Celestina, your no scramble round, you had 3 minutes in an open forum to like chat about who was voting, and it was one of the most exciting votes in Iriki Islands because it's the rock vote that sends Ashley home.
Yeah, it was. I remember not being stressed because that was the time where I had immunity, so it was kind of nice for me. So I just kind of sat back and let everybody kind of kind of handle that. But I think I just remember I mean, it's difficult because, everybody's in the same room, and so I believe with this one too, correct, right? Everybody's in the same room, right?
Yep.
It's not, yeah, okay, yeah. Everybody was in the same room. So it wasn't like, people could hop on into different areas and talk. Everybody was in the same room and they had to discuss. So you have to be, like Kylie said, really strategic about how you navigate that, because you still want to like convey to your ally, like, with a sign or a symbol. And it kind of gets me thinking, like, if this is a staple of DCP, like, maybe for the future, people like talk before and know that this is going to happen, and maybe like have like a symbol or like a handshake or I mean, not a handshake, but like some type of symbol or like an understanding where it's like, okay, I think the scramble might be coming up. Here's our two options. If this person's here, maybe we vote them out this time, or like this person, or let me do this after I say this, or something like that. So people know. I don't know, because it seems like it's a staple, and I don't know. It may come back. So that's a good way to handle it. And you can't rely on immunity for that. I just so happen to have that. But yeah, no, it is difficult, especially in my season where everybody just liked to be in a room and not really like talk. It was always very awkward. So like talk, navigate, but also like, be strategic in how you maneuver it. Be creative. We want to see good TV. Yeah.
Yeah, well, speaking of it being a staple, it has been a staple since Iriki Islands. And not just has it been a staple and something we've included in all of our minis, it's always happened at the final 6. And Simmons just happens to make that the truth again in All-Stars.
That's wild. I didn't realize that. That's a good fun fact.
So, then we get to this tribal council. We get to a tribal council, and you know what? Before we get to, we lose Andrew here. Absolute DCP legend. I love Andrew. Obviously, I played with him in Exile. And he gets to go out in a completely unique way that we have never seen in DCP before. In fact, it's so unique, we've only seen it once in Survivor before. And you know what, Andrew? Everyone keeps telling you, but you get Sareed here. You get Sareed. But that takes us to another secret scene.
Because I feel like advantages expire at 6, I wouldn't be surprised if someone did something.
What if it's advantage Gannon?
Yeah. I mean, I would say that besides Zucker, I mean, I'm not trying to speak for you or anyone else, but I would say besides Zucker, I feel like the 5 of us have felt comfortable enough that if we did have something, we knew that we had the numbers on our side.
Yeah.
So it is entirely possible that this could turn into like an advantage Geddon type situation. Which I would be the Sari in that situation because I don't do advantages. So if if I get Sari out in All Stars, you know what? Fine, I'll take it.
Or Shadow.
Honestly, at this point, I'm like at peace with whatever happens because 6th place is still good.
These psychic people, it's crazy.
Andrew just knew what was happening. He could foretell everything that was going to happen. Because this isn't even the first time he mentioned being on the receiving end of an advantage. He mentioned a few rounds ago in one of his voting confessionals too. But here we are. So we get to the vote, and everyone's like, "Okay, let's vote out Karen." Karen obviously can't vote for herself. She votes for Austin Moorhead. Well, I guess this is the only Austin left in the game at this point. Yeah. And Andrew puts a vote on Maddie. Then, right before the votes are read, Karen plays her legacy advantage that Garsow gifted her at the end of the last episode. She's now safe from the vote. And Zucker, who has been so good at holding on to his idol, decides to play his idol. And you know what? I think it's really fair. He plays his idol here because he's been the secondary vote. He should probably be assuming that Karen's probably putting his name down here. Plays his idol. That nullifies 4 votes. Not the legacy advantage nullifies 4 votes. Zucker's idol nullifies no votes, which would technically, in the grand scheme of things, be considered an incorrect idol play, except in this very simple situation. You have 1 vote for Maddie, 1 vote for Austin. As per the rules of DCP, we've been doing these rules for a long time because in Yasawa Islands, we had a lot of rocks and revotes, and it made the game really long. So we decided we were adopting the Game Changers rule so that if there was a tie vote, automatically go to rocks. So because there's these nullified votes, we do get a tie vote for Austin and Maddie, which, by the rules of Survivor, makes them safe. And everyone who's not safe then goes on to the wheel, pulls a rock, with Karen safe because of the legacy advantage, Zucker safe because of his immunity idol, Simmons safe because of individual immunity, and Maddie and Austin safe because they have the most votes for. That only leaves 1 person eligible to be voted out, and it's Andrew. Celestina, what was your reaction to this tribal council, to everything that transpired here?
My first reaction was I was mad at DCP. No, I'm just kidding. I wasn't mad. No, I'm just kidding. I understood, but I just was like, just this one time could, but I know you can't, you have to have like the integrity of like the rules and stuff. But yeah, it was just kind of like, it was hard to see because it's like, I'm kind of on the same boat with Andrew and being like, I don't do advantages. I really, when I like watch a game, like if I was ever on a jury, I would vote for someone based on like their social game and how they maneuvered like really difficult situations. I don't look at the flashy like idol games, all of those things as like necessarily my like main criteria for voting for a winner. So for me, when I saw that, I was like, I had the same exact reaction for Sari too. I was like, Sari is not an advantage person, but it's almost like, in DCP, this has never happened before, but Survivor, it's very advantage heavy. So I felt bad. I was like, so the person who literally was just like socially navigating the game without idols, the way that Survivor was meant to be, goes out. So it's always kind of like sad to see that, especially like I was really rooting for Andrew. So, but everybody has, that's what happens. But yeah, no, I was, I know that that's the way that DCP does it, but, sad.
I mean, if any, like Kylie, you were there live when this happened.
Yeah.
Like, talk to me through your reactions of this going through this live, and just like production's reactions in general.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say before I get to that, like I was there, so I knew it was gonna happen. But like watching the episode this week, like I had the same reaction. Like I got full body chills. Like it's a crazy. Like yes, it is sad, and like Andrew Denson was such a very fun person to watch this season. I feel like his Excel game was good, but like I do feel like he stepped it up this time. Like there was just like it was fun to watch him. Like you could tell that he was like, I know he plays other games, but it was like he was really coming into his own, and like it was just a fun game to watch. So it sucked to see him go. But like how cool. Like I don't know. I thought it was really cool. Like yes, it's sad, but like what a way to go out. So like for me watching it, it's like so crazy. It's like, legacy advantage, idol, like, whoa, they're tied. Like, I don't know. I just think it's so crazy. So I got like, super like chills all over, like, whoa, what an awesome experience and like a cool situation to happen.
Yeah.
And then when it was actually happening, I mean, we were all kind of like, whoa, what's going to happen? Because it's like when Zucker's going to play his idol, you're still like, oh, is he going to play it? Like, because, he's had it for a while. Mm-hmm. Like, we don't know if he's going to. And so that was the moment. Once we knew that he was going to play it, then it was like, oh my gosh, this is happening. And that was just like so crazy. And for me, it's like, I don't know. It's kind of hard for me to like wrap my brain around all these situations. Like I have to have it like actually like to see it happen. Like, okay, this does make sense. This is going to happen. But it was like the moment when like they like all of the castaways notice and they're like, whoa, like this is what's going to happen. And Andrew's like, yeah, like that's what like so like heart wrenching, honestly, to watch. But it's such good TV. It's like you really can't make this stuff up,
Yeah, I was gonna say it was very good TV to watch. I was like, ooh, this is like, this is some like iconic, like, if you ever do any retrospectives from DCP, You know, like this will be probably one of those like moments if you're like looking back at some of the like iconic moments. This will be one. So
I know a guy that might want to do iconic moments.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we had one of those on production, right?
Yep.
But I'm glad you brought up everyone's facial, like the moment where everyone realized what was happening, Kylie, because as you watch that tribal council go out, the first person you see the recognition on is Maddie, who's obviously been rocked out before, knows the rules, knows exactly what's happening. She came into the game making sure she knew the rules for rocks. And she's the first one to realize, it's like, I'm safe now because of this vote. And then you have that realization sinking in Andrew of, I'm the only one not safe. And it's disappointing because, like you said, like both of you said, Andrew positioned himself so well. I've been singing his praises this entire post-merge because I think he played so phenomenally. He positioned himself in a way where he is, yes, he's part of the Exile Alliance boys, but he's also kind of in a he's like that fourth member with Simmons, Austin, and Maddie as well. And had he survived this vote, which he was supposed to survive this vote, it would have been very interesting to see how he would have navigated these next 2 rounds because we're getting down to a point where, I mean, after this vote, we have 5 people left and we have what seems to be a 3-person alliance. Like, how do you navigate that at that point, right? It's phenomenal. It's an iconic moment. I hated Andrew because I was rooting for you so hard at this point in the game. But alas, like, what a way to go out.
Mm-hmm.
I know we like sound like Jeff Probst right now and we like condemn that type of thought process when it comes in the Survivor community. But from a TV perspective, it is quite the moment.
Yeah. I mean, I just think it was a testament to me, like, for myself being like, I was there, I knew it was going to happen, and it was still like, whoa, it still hits.
Yeah.
Like, so when we rewatch this season, you know, down the road before All Stars 2 or whatever, like, like it'll still always be like such an iconic moment. So it's really cool to be involved in it. And like, I mean, good for Andrew. Like, once again, sucks he didn't win, but like, hey, you're the Suri of DCP, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Hey, and it's Suri too, so I mean, you know.
Yeah, right. Like, there are worse Survivor players to be compared.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But there aren't many better Survivor players to be compared to.
Yeah.
All right, it's the Sunday show. Let's have some fun. So we've got a game here, as we always do on the Sunday show, and we have a Castaway Legacy word association here. So it's taking into fact the final 7, the final 7. We chose this game to kind of commemorate the legacy advantage that was played this week and was so much of the conversation this week. We wanted to honor the remaining Castaways legacies. So we took a word from their previous game and a word from that kind of describes their current game.
Mm-hmm.
And we're playing it. We're doing some word association here. There are 7 contestants left. So theoretically, you two could compete against each other and there could be a distinct winner. Or, I mean, I guess in the spirit of All Stars at this point, you could work together to come up with the answers.
I say let's work together.
Yeah, I would like to. Yeah, I don't want to be embarrassed.
Yeah.
Then I'll never be asked back on.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's see what we can do here. I had to find a way to do it so that the last one isn't too obvious.
Mm-hmm.
But let's start with this one. Our first 2 words are acting and analogies.
Oh, wait, acting? Okay.
Acting and analogies?
Analogies has got to be Austin Moorhead. So we're picking the person, is that what you're saying?
Yes. So you are trying to figure out the Castaway these 2 words are describing.
Okay. And these are the people that are left, not any that
at the top of these 2 episodes.
At the top of this week. So Austin, Garsow, Andrew, and then our final 5.
So both of them are included. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Like acting because he like, I don't know about the acting part, but the analogies, it's like, who else could that be? He says the most outlandish analogies in the whole entire freaking world.
Yeah.
Do you have any other ideas?
I mean, I was going to say Andrew too, maybe because he's such a good narrator, but I don't know.
Maybe with the acting, that's true. The acting's throwing me off.
I know.
Okay, so
we could go with
previous season, and then ones from this season.
Yes.
I mean, he did used to like wear like, okay, let's say Austin. That's my gut. I don't know.
Okay, let's go with your gut.
Well, your gut is correct.
Yeah. I know they're
if you remember from Exile Island, Austin had some pretty bad acting chops at the Zucker boot.
Okay.
Okay. I thought you were gonna say because he like wore a robe a lot and was like wearing a costume, basically.
I mean, you could make that connection as well, I guess.
Okay.
All right. Our next two words are sit and besties.
So maybe somebody who sat out in a lot of challenges. Maybe is that sit?
Sit is the word, SIT.
Or maybe
and besties. So
besties.
Someone's besties this time. Okay, sit.
Oh, is the first one for the first season and the second one for this season?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, okay. So sit was the okay.
Okay, so it could be like okay, so sit could be like the wall sit because we always do wall sits in DCP, but I don't know who has done it.
I think we're at a point where we can't say we always do wall sits anymore, Kylie.
We often do wall sits. We didn't do one this time so far.
But we also didn't do one at Trinity Falls.
Yeah. Okay, that's true. I don't know. Besties.
Besties. I mean,
maybe. Well, okay, so it's not gonna be Maddie because she didn't do a wall sit, and she's also. I mean, she has besties, I guess, with like Simmons, but I don't really think that would be her game.
What about somebody from the Exile Island? They're all like besties over there together.
I'm thinking that maybe it's because like Karen had a lot of friends on the season on the jury, so like that was the theme of this episode. One of the episodes was like how many friends that she has. I think she might have done a wall sit. I don't know. I can't remember it solid. That's
maybe. And she was what, like season one, the first season, right?
She was the first season, yeah.
So that was. I think I watched most of the season.
Yeah. Okay, that's my thought.
Yeah, let's go with that one because she did. Yeah, friendship.
Good thing we're working together.
That is correct.
Oh, okay.
That is correct. Yeah. It is in fact Karen. Let's go with idled and swapped.
Okay, who was idled out? Oh, Austin. Garza. Because he was swapped, the Austin swap, and then he was idled out in Trinity Falls. Yeah, look at me. Yeah.
Like, yeah, you see, I don't even, you don't even need me. I just, I'm here for the peanut gallery commentary because I
do need you. That one, I know.
No, that's good because it's been a while.
Yeah, that is Garso.
Yeah.
How about screwed and code?
Ooh. All right.
So the code. Okay, so this season with code, it involved.
Oh,
what was it? The Zucker thing.
Well, or it's what we were just talking about the code of the
or the other.
So Simmons figured out the code.
Yeah, the code.
He was screwed at I don't know, final three, right?
Let's do that one.
Simmons?
Okay. Or wait, let me think about it.
Because there was also the code, remember, with the whole like
I was gonna say it was
thing with the code.
Okay, yeah.
And so Lydia.
Well, because his idol. So yeah, so it could be that. And then what was the first word? Screwed?
Idol. Oh, screwed.
Screwed in the first. Was he screwed in his first season? Screwed is like a hard word.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's a hard word, isn't it?
Okay.
I wonder if it might be a synonym for a word that someone might actually say something about someone's first game.
Well, maybe it could be Maddie, right? Couldn't it? Because she also had the code too, but then the rock draw thing, whatever wheel. Sorry.
Yeah. I think that based on those context clues, I do think it's Zucker.
Zucker? Okay. Let's go with that one.
Why based on those context clues, Kylie? What's giving it away for Zucker here?
Why don't you say it, John? What's the quote?
What? Oh, it's because, I very clearly, you're right, it is Zucker, because after Zucker got voted out, I definitely said someone effed us in that vote.
Are we allowed to
Oh.
cuss on the Sunday show? We're
Probably.
yeah. He said, "You fucked us." About
That
Zucker.
was a good one though, because it could have been
That
multiple
makes
people.
sense. If you had said, I mean, once again, I don't know if we're allowed to cuss, but if you had said that word, I would have known it right away.
Well, we had to make it a little more difficult for you, right?
True. Okay. We got there.
All right. Our next one is Beast and Protected.
I mean, this is easy.
Could this be Simmons, maybe?
It gotta
Yeah.
be. I think it's gotta be.
It is, in fact, Simmons.
Yep.
Oh, we then have
That challenge.
Rocks and Loyal.
Rocks.
Yep.
Okay, maybe Maddie then?
Yeah. My Sahara Dune sister. Yeah, definitely Maddie.
Maybe, yeah.
And then our last one, Mayor.
Was that correct?
That was correct. That was correct.
Oh, okay.
Yes, you got it. And our last one is Mayor and Suri.
Yep.
Ah, well, Andrew.
Nice. Andrew
Yeah,
Denson. That original. Well, I guess he's the original long game mayor of Ponderosa.
He is. He sure is. That's our. That's the legacy of these players, right?
Yeah, that was fun. I like that game.
Well, we're coming to the end of the Sunday show. We only have one last thing to do. It's time for our MVPs. So, Celestina. Sorry, Kylie, you're on production. You get to go second. Celestina, who are you giving your MVP to for these last two episodes?
Tough. Part of me, can I talk through my thinking process?
Absolutely.
On it? Okay. Part of me wants to give it to Karen because of just the pure survival aspect. She's really she's surviving, but I really don't think that. I think she's next. So a part of me is I don't know. So I like that she's survived, but I think that Maddie and Simmons are also in a good, they're really good right now as well. So it's just trying to, I don't know. Who got it last week? Am I allowed to know who got it last?
I can get, you know what? This is, like I said, this is the penultimate episode of the Sunday show. I was going to save the MVP tallies until after we gave ours, but I can give them out now. So currently, with 2 MVP points this season, we have Garsow, Austin Moorhead, Karen, Kylie, and Simmons. And then with 1 MVP point so far, we have Andrew, Maddie, Simmons. Wait, no, Simmons has 3. I just put him on this list twice in 2 different spots. Simmons has 3. Those other people I mentioned have 2. And then our 1-pointers so far are Andrew, Maddie, Jeremy, Mike, and Shea.
Okay, so that actually helps me because what I'm thinking about now is I think Kara might be next, but I'm going to give the MVP point to her because of the fact that she's a winner and she's still there. That's my logic behind that, because I feel like you should vote winners out if well, not you should, but I'm just saying as a because they could win again, and that, don't you want to get threats out? So
yeah, I know that's a good
True.
point. Haley,
I guess that's that's my logic.
Yeah, so I was definitely going between 2 people. I was thinking Karen as well because I have been so impressed with her game, and I think that getting the legacy advantage kind of culminated in that. It's she could have gone home, but she made it through, so who knows what else will come from it. But it would have to watch 2 episodes. Simmons, his word protected, it's actually kind of insane. So I think I would choose. I'm gonna choose Simmons. So I'm happy that you gave it to Kara because she was definitely my second thought. But yeah, I just think he did win immunity the 2, but also he was kind of in the inner workings of all of it, and because even though the advantage you got had happened, Karen probably would have gone home. if she didn't have the legacy advantage, and like that was all his doing. And then also he was spearheading the Garsow vote like even before this episode, but then obviously kind of like made it come to play in that episode as well. So I think his social work was the most impressive of these 2 episodes, but definitely want to tip my hat to Karen as well, because I mean I remember like live time was very impressed with what she was doing. So both of them, very impressed with both of them.
Okay, well, I'm giving a third person credit here, and it's actually someone who doesn't have an MVP point yet, because I am going to give my MVP point to Zucker this round. His maneuvering since the merge, it's really interesting, because if we look at his and Andrew's game, I think they're very similar games. I think at the merge, we really kind of talked about this like 8 versus 3, and then like this Kylie versus Lex situation. But I think if we really break down the merge, what we had 3 groups of 3. And then you kind of had Zucker and Andrew in the middle with their choices of where to go. We had Andrew chose to like kind of go with that original Ignis group. And Zucker kind of attached himself to that Lex, Shea, Ashley group. And like they were both feeding information to those groups from the other side and everything like that. And Zucker found himself in a really rough spot, because he had the first 3 votes of the merge were those 3 people he attached himself to. He had been the secondary vote the entire merge. Yeah. He found an idol at the merge, has held onto it because of how insulated he feels with these people. He knows, as of the Shea boot, he is just completely in with the Exile boys and with Maddie. And because of that, they have a 5. They have majority. He feels so comfortable. He didn't have to hold his advantage, or he didn't have to play his idol until this vote here, where it was pivotal that he played at his advantage in order to save himself. So I'm giving my point to Zucker this week, because I just think, as someone who has found idols and knows the paranoia that comes with an idol and when to play it, and didn't play an idol for Zucker when he really should have, like I have to acknowledge the fact that Zucker's much better with immunity idols than I am. He played it really well. He got to a point where it's like, yes, we see some conversation about the fact that like, Karen and Zucker are kind of the names that are there for like the 6th place boot and like the boot at 5 with like that overnight conversation. But he's still gotten himself to this point from what was really quite a bad position at merge. And I have to commend him for it, because he's maneuvering this really well. His adaptability through these mini rounds, we were talking about at the top how important it is to be adaptable. His adaptability is just superb, and it resulted in him being able to save himself from being potentially having a 50% chance of going home at this tribal council.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Good pick.
Everybody has good arguments. I love it.
Well, with that, like we're coming to the end of the Sunday show. Celestina, we have a final 5 left. Who's your winner pick?
I don't know. I feel like final tribal matters, like they were saying. But I guess, I mean, you have to like make that, make the case. I guess like from how everything's happening right now, I think Simmons has the best shot to get there and to win. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if other people won based on, their final tribal performance. So that's what I'm saying right now. But that by no means is like that's just like my quick knee jerk.
That's your quick knee jerk before seeing the next 3 hours of scrambles.
Exactly.
3 hours of a mini. And Kylie, I can't ask you this question.
Yeah. And one thing I want to like say is that I hope, because I don't know what's going to happen, but this season's called Rites of Passage. I wonder if they're going to have a Rites of Passage this season. That would be real. I would love to see that, because as a Survivor purist, like that warms my heart. So if not, then maybe in the future.
We'll put it into our DCP folder.
Yeah, with all your new technology with the clips now.
Exactly, yeah. All right, that brings us to the end of the Sunday show this week. Thank you, Celestina, Kylie, so much for joining me. things are a little different here because, like I said, we're at the end of the season here. There are 3 episodes left of Rites of Passage, which means next week there's no Sunday show. Sunday show's not going to be until the week after. We're just going to put these last 3 episodes all into one. So we'll be discussing the final 5, the final 4, and the final 3 all in a single mega episode of the Sunday show in 2 weeks. So next week there's no Sunday show, but in the meantime you get Final 5 this Monday. You get Final 4 on Thursday, and you get the Final 3 the week after on that Monday. It's going to be very exciting. We are by no means is this. Yes, we just had a very exciting week with a crazy vote that had never happened in DCP history, but we're keep tuning in. There's so much going on. These All-Stars are fighting for their right to be crowned the winner of All-Stars. You'll get exit interviews. They'll be hopefully on Tuesdays and Saturdays, depending, sometimes scheduling makes things a little difficult sometimes with these All-Stars. They're so busy. Everyone loves them so much.
Yeah.
Make sure you follow and subscribe. Hit that bell and that like button. We really appreciate it. It helps get our visibility out there. Follow us on Instagram. Join the Facebook group. Lots of conversations happening there. And we will see you in 2 weeks, where we will be discussing the winner of Rites of Passage All-Stars. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Have yourself a great night.